Representative Robbins, welcome to the Transportation Committee. We don't see you here often. I will move your House File 14 to the General Register. Please tell us about your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I appreciate you hearing this bill. This is an attempt to help save taxpayers' money by pausing the construction of the Blue Line light rail until the Southwest light rail line is complete, and then we can evaluate whether Blue Line still makes sense. So just to help people understand the costs involved and the history of the overruns and time overruns on light rail, Southwest light rail has 16 transit stations and 14.5 miles. It was first suggested in 2011, and it was supposed to open in 2018 for the cost of $1.25 billion. At 2018, when it was supposed to be open, it was reevaluated, and it was going to cost $2 billion and was going to open in 2023. Now we're in 2025, and the cost is projected to be $2.9 billion, and supposedly it will open in 2027. So that's a 232% increase in the cost, members. We cannot afford to make this same mistake again with the Blue Line. So just to give you the level set on the Blue Line, it was originally proposed to start work on it in 2014 at a cost of $999 million, and it was going to open in 2022. In 2022, it did not open, but the cost had risen to $1.53 billion. And now here we are in 2025 with a projected cost of $3.2 billion, and now it's slated to open in 2030. Members, we are facing a severe budget deficit. Most of the cost of this project will be borne, there will be, I believe, $1 billion from the feds if we get it. And otherwise, the cost of constructing this is borne by Hennepin County. I represent a lot of taxpayers in Hennepin County, and they're incredibly frustrated that the county would take this project on with, I mean, we haven't even gotten off the ground, and it's already, the costs have tripled, and that does not account for a story in the Star Tribune yesterday saying that they're going to need a new bridge design at the Theodore Wirth Parkway, and that's going to cost another $50 million. Members, we can do bus rapid transit in this corridor for at least 10% of the cost. The F line in Representative Cagle's district is a bus rapid transit line, same specs as the blue line. 13 miles, 23 stations, $75 to $85 million. We should be considering bus rapid transit before we think about another mile of rail in light rail in this state. Bus rapid transit is flexible, it's much more affordable, it meets the needs of the communities. And just to level set again, the F line, $75 to $85 million for the entire 13 miles. The current projection on the Blue Line is $222 million per mile. Per mile. We could do the whole project for less than the cost of a mile of the fixed light rail. So members, I appreciate your indulgence. This is a way we can save money for taxpayers, make the system more efficient. And also, I'm just speaking quickly on behalf of the members of, there's a group called the South Stop the Light Rail.org, and they submitted testimony. It's in your packet. They wanted to be here, but they weren't able to rearrange their schedules. But there are hundreds of constituents who feel they are not being represented. So thank you, members, for listening.
Representative Robbins, I appreciate you bringing House File 14 to the committee. As we heard previously about the resources and the size of our transportation system is always searching for more dollars on all modes, and this is an attempt to make sure that those resources are used efficiently in the modes that people actually use and more efficiently. Members and to the testifiers, on the agenda that it was listed on there, we're going to start with Mr. Shetnam from the Met Council. We will keep comments to 2 minutes as was posted in the rules, and we're going to be very strict on that. So I appreciate the Met Council. I'm sorry to keep you on a tight time frame as well, but we want to get this moving. Please introduce yourself and proceed for the testimony.
Great. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Judd Shetnan. I'm the Government Affairs Director at the Metropolitan Council, and I am a bit under the weather today, so I will be keeping my comments pretty brief. But Nick Thompson, who's our project director for this, is unfortunately able to be here today, so I will be making his comments as well. But the Metropolitan Council is interested in seeing the regional transit system grow, develop, and be constructed. And the Blue Line extension is a very important part of that. And what this bill does is that it would not allow that project to move forward because it would place a restriction on the fact that any funds, that the council can't use any funds on the construction of this project. Right now, our county partners at Hennepin County are the local funding partner for us. That would mean that we would not be able to take those dollars and put those into this project. The project is currently in a planning implementation phase, and so since we aren't opening revenue operations on the Green Line extension or Southwest until 2027, that would mean that we would have a 2-year delay to this project. So this would have to freeze, be suspended, however you want to look at it. We anticipate that for a project this size, that the cost of delay is in about the $100 million a year range, just based on inflation. And so looking at a 2-year pause, we would expect that the inflationary cost of this would be at least in the $200 million range. That goes against what the council is interested in. We'd like to see this project move forward. We would like to see the regional transit system continue to grow. We believe that we've got a great opportunity with the passage of the regional sales tax last year, working with our regional partners to deliver on this project and others is the process that we'd like to move forward on. And so I just appreciate you giving me a chance to put those concerns on the record. And I'll stop talking because
Representative, or Mr. Shetnan, I do have a question. Is Representative Robinson's comments accurate that the state of Minnesota with the Met Council could build a bus rapid transit system along a similar route for significantly less money than a light rail? Is that true?
Well, Mr. Chair and members, I am not going to get out in front of what I'm able to comment on, and Mr. Thompson would certainly be able to do that much better than I can. But
Mr. Shetnan,
we do know that
is there a significant savings by using a bus system instead of?
Mr. Chair, members, the
light
cost
rail?
of building an arterial BRT lane or project here in the metro area is significantly less than
Okay, thank you.
building light rail transit.
Next, we have Naz. I'm going to get your name right. The more files we have. Nurakati.
Exactly right.
Okay, and then we will have Joshua Hodak, Irene Fernando, Hollins Winstons. Please be ready with your testimony when I call your name. Please identify yourself and proceed with the record. When I hold up this, it means you're out of time. Close up. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chair, and the rest of the committee for having me again. My name is Nas, and I am the State Policy Lead for Move Minnesota and Move Minnesota Action. I am once again here on behalf of our organizations and our community of thousands of transit riders to oppose the moratorium on light rail expenditures as outlined in HF 14. We are witnessing a pattern of attacks against transit, against public transportation. It's not new, it's happened before. Elected officials want to move dollars away from transit investments, are drafting legislation that kills projects like the NLX, or are trying to halt work on any light rail projects. I have to ask, who are these proposals for? It is not for everyday Minnesotans trying to make ends meet, because on Monday in this committee, we were told that we're trying to make life more affordable for Minnesotans. The average car cost is going up. We're looking at about $10,000 to $14,000 a year for the average Minnesotans. And we also know that about a third of Minnesotans are living paycheck to paycheck. If affordability is really our priority, we should be bullish on transit investments, because people want and need to be able to get around without having to buy a car to do it. Over the past few years, I've conducted interviews with transit riders and non-transit riders alike. I've personally spoken to hundreds and hundreds of Minnesotans about their needs and wants, about their ideas and their fears. There are a great number of people I've met that have lived and worked along the blue and green lines that built their entire lives around it. When I was in college at the U, I used to work here at the legislature, and I couldn't afford a car, and light rail had made it possible for me. There are plenty of people like me, and there will be more. I ask you to oppose this bill and other bills that seek to undermine the transit system that so many members of our community rely on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, appreciate the testimony. Next up, we have Joshua Hudak.
I think you had it right the first time. It's Joshua Hodak. Thank you, Chair and committee members. My name is Joshua Hodak. I'm the Senior Program Manager at Sierra Club, the oldest and largest environmental advocacy organization in the nation and in the state. We're talking a lot about the means but not the ends of light rail. So I want to talk about light rail being quiet. Its electric motors emit zero emissions, no loud or polluting fumes. Light rail carries significantly more passengers than a bus or miles of congested traffic on our roads. Light rail isn't phased by ice, or snow, or slippery road conditions. Light rail has a positive impact on economic development. I'll continue. Light rail complements bus service, the backbone of our metropolitan region's transit system. It's complementary. And transportation is the #1 source of climate pollution in our state, and clean transit options like light rail are part of that overall solution. We need expanded service serving more communities, and HF 14 will leave federal money on the table for other regions to take advantage of. I urge you to vote no on this bill and support more, not less, options for getting Minnesotans to where they need to go. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate the testimony. I apologize, I did skip over Councilmember Ellison. I did that by accident as Mr. Shetland was moved first. If you're ready to go, and then we will go to the commissioner.
Thank you all for having me. My name is Jeremiah Ellison. I'm on the Minneapolis City
Mr.
Council.
Ellison, please proceed.
Representing Ward 5, which is where the light rail will go through when it goes through Minneapolis. Last fall, all the cities along the Blue Line extension, every single one of them, passed municipal consent for this project. And when it comes to intergovernmental relationships, when it comes to our regional partners, consent is really important for projects like this. Consent's earned really through a lot of public engagement. We don't take that lightly. It's taken many, many years to get to this point. And I also, speaking of many, many years, want to talk about how the Blue Line had to be realigned. That's a part of the delay. And when we talk about the rise in costs, delay is a part of that rise in costs. Maybe the biggest contributing factor to that rise in costs. So further delay is only going to put us in a less financially ideal situation. It's not going to save anybody money down the line. We're now in the advanced stages of planning this route, where we are still doing further communication to in community engagement to make sure that we can not have disparate effects like displacement of communities and businesses. We're doing the engagement that we need to in order to make sure that this line is truly additive to the residents of Ward 5, where I represent, but also every single resident along this route. I think it would be a huge disruption. I think it'd be a huge mistake for us to disrupt this project as it's moving forward. And I heard a lot of talk about the Southwest line, but this line is not dependent on anything regarding the Southwest line. We are on our own timeline, we are pursuing our own ends, and we are serving our constituents along the line diligently. Happy to answer any questions that folks might have, but I would encourage folks to make sure that we do not have any disruptions to the further development of the Blue Line extension.
Councilmember, thank you for your comments and your testimony. Appreciate you being here today. Next, we have Commissioner Irene Fernando, Hennepin County, followed by Hollins Winston. Please introduce yourself for the committee and proceed with your testimony.
Chair Koznick, Representative Robbins, members, thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Irene Fernando, Chair of the Hennepin County Board. Hennepin serves residents with efficient transportation options that meet the needs of our growing region by investing in the construction of a comprehensive network of high-frequency transit lines like light rail and bus rapid transit. Quality transit builds vibrant and thriving communities by increasing access to jobs while reducing disparities and traffic congestion. This project will extend the Blue Line from downtown Minneapolis through North Minneapolis, Robbinsdale, Crystal, and Brooklyn Park, efficiently connecting these communities to the broader transit network and the region's job, health, and education centers. Some of these communities have high rates of poverty and have been historically underserved and underinvested in. This project is a generational investment in our region's transportation system and residents. Light rail serves as the main arteries of our transit system. It moves people more efficiently and connects major destinations while feeding other transit modes. In fact, just the 2 existing light rail lines serve 1/3 of all transit rides in the metro. A successful transit system needs multiple modes working together to get people where they need to go. The communities along the route have some of the highest transit ridership rates in the state, with around 50% of riders without reliable access to a car and dependent on transit to meet their daily needs. The Blue Line extension will also create thousands of good-paying jobs in construction and supplier industries and will ignite economic development along the corridor. Light rail projects uniquely stimulate millions in private economic investment. Since 2009, more than $12 billion of development in the region has occurred near light rail transit lines, including over 36,000 multifamily residential units. Transitway investment makes our region more competitive for the jobs and talent of the future. Light rail leverages billions in federal funding to Minnesota that would otherwise go to our peer metros like Seattle, Phoenix, and Austin. Last fall, we hit a key milestone with all municipalities voting to approve preliminary design plans. The strong support from elected officials shows the value this project will bring to our communities. Hennepin is committed to funding the local share of this light rail project to deliver rapid transit service to the corridor, our region, and Minnesota. We urge you to not delay the Blue Line extension, and I very much thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you for your testimony and your comments. Next, we have Mayor of Brooklyn Park, Mr. Hollins Winston. Please introduce yourself and begin with your testimony. Next up will be Mr. Aaron Wagner.
Hi, Mayor Hollis Winston of the City of Brooklyn Park. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. I think aside from some of the environmental concerns of reducing congestion and emission, I think the Blue Line is incredibly important. And for our City of Brooklyn Park, that revolves around economics. That makes sense. So very quickly, if we look at our City of Brooklyn Park, 87,000 people. Bloomington is slightly bigger. They have $5.5 billion in commercial property values. We have $2 billion. $3.5 billion gap. That gets passed on to our residents, and that's not just a story for Brooklyn Park. That is a story for pretty much that entire region. Extensive research shows that light rail brings denser development, brings the right type of housing, whether affordable, workforce, or market rate, and it very much expands that tax base. So it creates opportunities for real equity. I don't know the new definition of equity that people use, but when we talk about owning businesses, we talk about owning homes or people having jobs, this addresses that. Approximately 20% of all Hennepin County households within a car live within 1 mile of what will be the Blue Line extension. So this very much creates wealth for folks within the community. Brooklyn Park has made a commitment to this, and that's both in time and in dollars. And for us, time, our staff also equates to dollars. So we will be putting $8 million towards this in terms of infrastructure improvements along West Broadway. We've enacted substantial zoning changes. We've worked with Target, which is in our area up there, to kind of plan this out. And we actually are creating a biotech district along that line to take advantage of this opportunity. And numerous developers have said they look forward to the Blue Line light rail coming so that they can build that out. In addition, along that line, 27 to 32 city councilors have given consent for that, along with the county board. So that area is very much asking for this development. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak. And I'll just close on this saying that there are cities that have built out their tax base and sales tax opportunities already. The Northwest region overall deserves that opportunity. It shouldn't just go to certain people. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next up, we have Mr. Aaron Wagner, Robbinsdale City Council.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, Representatives. My name is Aaron Wagner. I'm on the Robbinsdale City Council. I just want to start by echoing the sentiments that Councilmember Ellison shared. I fully agree with them. Ward 5 in Minneapolis and Robbinsdale share a border, and I can assure you that our constituencies are well represented. If you don't know about Robbinsdale is a small tight-knit community with a small-town feel. And to illustrate that, our former mayor describes our downtown as authentic and human scale. The many small businesses and restaurants contribute to that spirit, and I encourage you to visit if you haven't. Increasing these connections to our downtown and our businesses to the greater metro area is why this project is important to Robbinsdale. I believe that our city's full potential will be realized with light rail. Not unlike the president's promise to usher in a new, quote, golden age for America. The specifics of this plan are still unfolding, but there is clear emphasis on increasing domestic manufacturing and prioritizing American-sourced inputs for that production. The hope is to increase high-paying jobs here at home. This project does all of that and more. A number of companies that employ Minnesotans will be working on the construction of the light rail extension and the corresponding private development that it spawns. These are good jobs that otherwise would not be there. For a small, fully developed city like mine, any new development is de facto redevelopment, and they are just more expensive to do. Builders need extra incentive to invest, and light rail access is that incentive. Just the hint of extending the Blue Line has breathed new commercial life into my city. And these investments don't benefit only my city or other cities on the route. Labor, materials, and other components for the extension and other developments are going to be sourced from around the metro and state. Workers from these projects will be spreading their paychecks everywhere. As great as Robbinsdale is, we don't have an H&M or an REI like Maple Grove does. We don't have apple orchards, but many towns in greater Minnesota do. That means project-generated wealth will be spread around. I want to make this crystal clear. This project is creating jobs and opportunity in America, not in another country, here, right now. To stall it would be betrayal to the communities who are waiting for this and to the businesses who have invested in them. A new age, golden or otherwise, cannot be achieved with the same old infrastructure. Please do not stall this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Next, we have Ricardo Perez. Welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Ricardo Perez. I am a coalition organizer with the Alliance for Metropolitan Stability and help staff the Blue Line Coalition. Since 2013, the Blue Line Coalition has met monthly and many times way more than once a month to talk about the planning and development of the Blue Line Extension project. And for us, the Blue Line Extension project is not about a train, but it's about the people who currently live, work, go to church, or gather to pray across the corridor of Blue Line Extension project. And we've met hundreds and hundreds of people who are very interested in seeing this materialize. Some of them have waited over 20 years since they first heard about this project. So we strongly believe that the corridor, that North Minneapolis, Brooklyn Park, Crystal, Robbinsdale deserves a light train extension. And why? Because of the people, right? We've met entrepreneurs and small business owners who are excited to see their business grow or to start a new business. We've met seniors who are interested in helping getting quicker to their medical appointments with this train, or families who are excited to travel from Brooklyn Park all the way down to the Mall of America on the weekend, well, today they cannot do that. So for us, the Blue Line Extension project has become a vehicle for the imagination of these communities to move together towards the best version of what their neighborhood, their city, their county, their state can become. So we urge you to please vote no on the funding moratorium. Do not disrupt the efforts that go way back. Help us tell people in the corridor that we can work together to see this benefit materialize for all. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Perez. Andrea Young. Andrea Young, if I said that incorrectly. Welcome to the committee. State your name and your organization, and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Andrea Young, and I am the Executive Director of the Heritage Park Neighborhood Association. I want to start by saying how important money is for the communities in which I serve. Last night, I attended a town hall meeting held by the Senator and representatives of District 59. I listened to the community ask a few questions about funding and transportation projects like the Blue Line extension because we are being made aware that you are in your budget season. The fear of funding and the Blue Line extension not being funded was a surface level emotion in the room. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to sound like the community isn't resilient when it comes to figuring out funding, but I do think that it is important to keep our communities in mind when you make decisions about transportation and funding. We just listened to Representative Robbins explain as to why she suggests that the Blue Line should not be invested into, but the people of the communities that I serve deserve the same opportunities as the people that live along the Green Line. I watched on the news last night how there is a bill being pushed forward to alleviate some of the burdens of parents, considering exemptions on things like car seats and other items. I just want you all to consider the alleviation that the transportation funding will also bring into the communities that I represent, and the importance of the projects like the Blue Line extension, because this project isn't just about transportation, but it is also about the people. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We will have Alicia Alexi come next. And Representative Robbins, I just want to clarify, your bill just puts a pause until we figure out that we get the Southwest Light Rail operational and functional, a project that has been well-known as a extreme boondoggle, 3 times the price, before we waste more money. But you have also suggested that there should be a bus line to serve people in transit in that area. So I just want to remind the testifiers of that fact. Please introduce yourself and proceed with the testimony.
Thank you, Chair and committee members. I am Alicia Alexi, and I'm a policy advocate at the Housing Justice Center. And I'm here to express my opposition to Bill HF 14, which would put a pause on the Blue Line extension project. I actually took the Green Line light rail to get here to this hearing today, and I have been a lifelong public transit user, so I know the value of having accessible and easy to navigate transit options for those of us who are not car dependent. This bill would make fewer available options for reliable transportation for those who live along the corridor in Brooklyn Park, Crystal, Robbinsdale, and Minneapolis. There has already been a massive amount of time and effort spent on the Blue Line extension project from various stakeholders and community members, and it would be a shame for all of that to go to waste. We may not have the robust public transit infrastructure of cities like Chicago or New York, but our communities, especially those along the corridor, deserve the investment and the opportunities that the Blue Line extension project will provide. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We do have at least one member of the public that wanted to testify. Please proceed to the front, introduce yourself, and if there's anybody else, please notify the page. We will be voting and want to have a little bit of member discussion for about 15 minutes. Welcome to the committee. Please introduce yourself, and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. I'm Ron Williams from Robbinsdale. I oppose HF 14, a temporary moratorium on Blue Line extension expenditures. I strongly advocate for this LRT going forward. It is the last of the LRT projects planned for the Twin Cities since 1970s to transport a lot of people efficiently, reduce congestion, and stimulate development for the region. After feedback from months of community workshops, the project managers favored LRT over BRT because ridership projections forecasted a need for light rail, and because the LRT would stimulate economic development while BRT would not. The current route is so much better than the one using BNSF because it multiplies the benefits to disadvantaged communities by going through North Minneapolis. Thus, the extension fulfills a major project goal of equity in public transportation for those who need it. There has been a concern that our trains are not safe because our society has spilled some of its social problems onto public transit. In 2023, the Minnesota legislature gave Metro Transit money to fight the homeless and the crime problem primarily on its trains. Since then, the Metro Transit Police working with social workers have provided vouchers and other services to the homeless. Also, Metro Transit has partnered with 10 community-based organizations that have interacted with riders to provide service connections. Community service officers have been issuing administrative citations for non-payment of fees. In addition, security guards have been hired to report crime at Lake Street and 4 other train stations. But have these measures made a difference? Here is some evidence that they have. For 2024, crime fell by 6% from 2023. Along with that, the 2024 bus and train ridership rose for the third consecutive year, a nearly 6% increase over the previous year. In conclusion, the Blue Line extension will bring much-needed transportation service and development to its 4 cities, not crime.
I appreciate it. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for your time.
You know, interestingly, a couple years ago when we were talking about this, I received a social media post from somebody I hadn't talked to in years from Robbinsdale that was strongly opposed to this and would much rather prefer a bus line and not the disruption. So there are opposing opinions on that, but I appreciate that's why we have public testimony. We have Representative Olson. Real quick, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Robbins, for bringing forward this really responsible idea here. And here's what I'm looking at, and you might need to refresh me on the numbers, so this might turn into a question here. But I'm looking at some data, ridership data from the Met Council. I've got a nice little graph here that you can see has gone down significantly over the last 80 years. And then I'm also looking at this subsidy per passenger report that the Met Council has put out. And I did some math. And I'm a social studies teacher by trade, so I might be wrong with my math here. But what I was looking at is the difference between creating and finishing this line versus using a bus rapid transit would equate to about, there would be a necessary ridership of 5 billion riders on this train before it equaled the investment of a bus rapid transit. So the cost of the train versus the cost of the bus, we would need 5 billion people to ride on that train at least one time in order to equal the cost. Now, if we want to look at this and we look at my nice little graph here, we see that there were about 50 million transit riders last year. 50 million, okay? And a third of those ride transit. So we do some math here. You take 50 billion divided by 50 million, and 1/3 of that, it would take 300 years to equal the investment. A bus line versus a train, it would take 300 years to recoup our investment on the train. I don't think any of us are going to be around here 300 years from now. I think it's a very poor investment, and I really appreciate you bringing this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Olson. I didn't hear a question. Next, we have Representative Jones, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Representative Robbins, for giving us this opportunity to talk about transit. So I think I'm the only member who is on this committee that represents a district in which trains from this line will be going through their district. So, and I also represent a district that has the Green Line going through it. So let me tell you, I've had many questions and conversations with folks on the doors about the Green Line. No, there's lots and lots of challenges about that line. And so also want to think about, like, we are here to bring good governance to our state. And so, and I agree with you that we want to use our public funds astutely. I come from a family of small business owners. It's really important to them that our public dollars are used well, especially, when they're paying, especially businesses pay tax dollars. So what I want to get to is identifying what the real problem is. Do you know what the main physical cause of the challenges of the Green Line were?
Representative Robbins.
I know what I read in the OLA reports, and I followed that quite closely. So a lot of it had to do with the apartment building that was too close to where they're doing the tunnel, delays. But those challenges won't be the same as the challenges we see in this project. So I would just submit that this project isn't even off the ground, and they've had serious delays and serious increases in cost. So they've identified a $50 million challenge at a crossing just in the paper yesterday. So whatever the challenges will be in this project, they will certainly be there. And I think what we saw with the Southwest Light Rail is a good example that we should learn from. And rather than double down, we should take the lessons learned from Southwest Light Rail about delays and huge cost overruns and say, we don't want to make that mistake again.
Thank you. 10 seconds, follow-up.
Yeah, so thank you for that. I will say, so the main problem was that it's a tunnel underwater. The blue line is not going to have a tunnel moving underwater. So that is the main driver of all of the delays and the complications for the green line. So that is not the same that's happening on the blue line. I also wanted to ask, have you spoken to any of the biotech firms that Mayor from Brooklyn Park mentioned have been making investments because they're anticipating this LRT route?
Representative Jones, my understanding is if you're comparing the Green Line extension, the Southwest Light Rail, about $3 billion approaching. This project is about similar. I don't care if there's a tunnel or not. It's still $3 billion. We can do a bus cheaper. Representative Robbins, real quick.
I have not spoken directly with them about the line running through the Brooklyn Park section, but my understanding is that that is a lot of potential, but they need TIF districts. There's a lot of things that aren't lined up there yet. And my district, which is nearby, I speak to them. We're doing a lot of development in the biotech space, and I know they're very eager to continue to invest. And I think they would be, whether it was bus rapid transit or light rail.
Representative Tapke.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And first, I just want to say thank you to Representative Robbins for good conversation that we've had with regard to a Blue Line extension over the last couple years. We have had different goals in mind, but similar ways that we get down the path, as it were. And so we discussed last year this bill, and I was supportive of concepts of it, but with last year we passed, and I made you aware that we passed in statute 473.3999. We passed in there restrictions as to how the funding could go, and so I am extremely supportive of light rail and of building out our transit system. I think it's critical for all folks across the entire metro, all hardworking folks, to be able to have access to transit, and I am concerned, along with you, about the cost of the Blue Line there. And so with that, this is a Hennepin County project, and Hennepin County is making the decisions. We have a history in the metro of the counties being the one starting projects and moving them forward, and that is exactly what's happening here. And so we passed, if I can draw everyone's attention to the back page, page 2, subdivision 3 under project cost. The second sentence there is the council must only use direct appropriations in law or federal sources to pay its portion of light rail transit capital construction costs. And what this does is it restricts the state.
10 seconds, Representative Tapke. Get to your question, please.
It's an important point to be making here, so I
appreciate it.
So with that, where we are at is that with this funding moving forward, and this in the bill, it is restricting the ability of the state's money via the sales tax to be used on Blue Line unless it is directed by the state. And so I think that your bill is redundant and not necessary right now and doesn't meet the goals. I think it's a Hennepin County project and it should stay that way. And then second thing is that this has fiscal components to it. So if you look at line 1.6 on House File 14, Metropolitan Council must not expend any funds.
Stopped.
And
Recording in progress.
It means it has fiscal components to it. I appreciate that. Mr. Chair, I move to amend the motion that we have today and re-refer this to Ways and Means instead of to the General Register.
There's a motion to move to Ways and Means.
Yeah, I make a motion to amend the motion to move to Ways and Means instead of General Register as it was.
Representative Cagle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so I think I'm speaking in support of this motion. Last cycle, we appropriated $50 million to fund the Blue Line in 23. and 30 of that is unspent. And so presumably that would cancel back to the general register. So this definitely has fiscal implications and must
There's a
go
motion to move the file to the general register, or, excuse me, to Ways and Means. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? No. The motion does not prevail. Representative Cagle?
I'd like to make a motion then to move it to government operations.
There's a motion to move it to government operations. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No. I will call the question. Those in favor of moving House File 14 to the general register?
Calling the question?
Yes. We've got 2 minutes left.
Mr. Chair, this is inappropriate. Like, we are
It's okay.
still.
It's moved. It's not debatable. Those in favor of moving House File 14 to Ways and Means? We can have a, the motion's already been made. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say.
Division?
No.
Division has been called. We will take a voice call, roll call.
Chair Koznick.
Yes.
Vice Chair Myers.
Wait, excuse me. what's
Representative Anderson.
Yes. Oh, general register.
Representative Berg.
No.
Representative Fogelman.
Yes.
Representative Green.
No.
Representative Jones.
No.
Representative Joy. Representative Kraft.
No.
Representative Murphy. Representative Olson. Representative Ream.
No.
Representative Sensamura.
No.
Representative Scraba. Representative Tadke.
No.
There being 8 ayes and 7 nays, the motion prevails, and we will be moving this House File 14 to Ways and Means.
Okay.
Excuse me.
That's good. All right. We got it. The right call.
The motion, the House File 14 will be moved to the general register.